What up, what up, what up? What's going on? Man, it's been a few days. Don't know why there was such a delay. Actually, I do know why there was such a delay. Had some personal business to tend to, and man, it was good. It was refreshing. But I'm back, and I'm about to kick off an NBA deal. Um, I know my first two were featuring Super Bowl, and I know we were talking about it a lot, and talked about the Raiders a little bit on a different one, but you know, I want to get to the NBA stuff, get to the right now. Nearing the end of the season, just had the All-Star break, got teams sort of out of it, unfortunately, like my Spurs. I don't really want to talk about it. Kind of sad about this here, but trade deadline made me a little happier. But I'm gonna go over some trade deadline stuff, some All-Star game stuff, and some expectations for the rest of the year. So let's get into it. Trade deadline. Trade deadline was I can't remember the exact date. I know it was about a week and a half ago or so. But man, a lot of good stuff happened. Like some stuff that's polarizing to the league, stuff that or stuff. I keep saying stuff. Trades that were season swaying in my opinion. There's a lot of things that happened that could really have one team or another be decided down the stretch. You know, teams that are already in good situations that really only got better. Teams that you could tell were sellers this year, unfortunately, because you know the season's not really going their way. But it was a lot of interesting moves. There was a lot of players. I mean, I don't really want to call it diva, but you know, in this day and age, the way the NBA is, you know, players kind of want out and they make it known. Once they make it known, you know, teams are kind of in those uncomfortable situations where they're just like, do I let this player go now? Do I wait for a contract year? Does stuff like Kyrie Irving last year happen where, you know, you have a player who sits out or John Wall even, a player that sits out says they just don't want to be involved with the team anymore. I kind of find it uh, shitty to say the least. It's unfortunate, you know, that teams are in that which way. I'm not so heavy on the old school loyalty thing. I mean, although it is cool, you know, to see a player start and finish with the same team. You know, we got to see that with Tim Duncan. I'm still going to claim Tony Parker, even though he left for the Hornets at the tail end of his career, only to come back and retire a Spur anyway. You know, Manu Ginobili, um, David Robinson. You know, we had a lot of like loyal guys to the franchise, and so as the San Antonio Spurs fan base got to witness that firsthand. You know, the Lakers got to see Kobe. It looked like they were going to be able to claim Shaq, even though, you know, he started in Orlando and stuff, but then he bounced around at the end of his career, so that was, you know, kind of awkward, especially since he was a little judgy towards Dwight Howard for bouncing around and then claiming, saying, hey, how am I not in the top NBA 50 of all time, this being Dwight Howard, and Shaq saying, man, you bounced around, you big guy, you bounced around. Well, Shaq, you bounced around, dude. You were in, I shoot, 6 teams: Magic, Lakers, in any order: Boston, Cleveland, Miami. He bounced around, so I mean, I don't know, don't care. Anyways, other franchises again, they've got to see this loyalty. Portland seeing it now, and Damian Lillard. Whether that sticks is kind of unbeknownst to anybody. It may or may not. The way the NBA is kind of going right now, a lot of players are opting to, you know, do certain things or kind of set themselves up for success, especially later in their careers, when the franchise has been able to either trade or draft good prospects or, again, trade for good people. Damian Lillard hasn't been outspoken about saying that he's against trading for these players, right? But he himself is saying he's trying to stay loyal to the one franchise in Portland. So good for him. But again, I mean, players get a little bit more antsy, I guess, when it comes to the end of their career. They want to win, right? Every player wants to win, especially those guys like superstar athletes. They want to win. It's just ingrained in them to do what they can to be great. And part of that being great statistic is always championships, right? It comes up all the time. Scoring titles, MVPs, championships, finals MVPs, things and such. It's your whole career is based on that. And as of right now, it's kind of sad to say, but Damian Lillard doesn't have any of that, to my knowledge. Uh, I don't even think he got a Rookie of the Year, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that one. Somebody correct me, comment in my below if he actually did have that. I'm gonna look it up afterwards. But uh, these trades and these demands for trades were interesting to say the least. Not surprising for some. Uh, I'm pretty sure anybody that watches the NBA knows who I'm already about to speak of when I say it's not surprising, right? Um, but yeah, a lot of trades that really were setting teams up for the future. One team, in my opinion, got set up for now, or to be competitive now, but to also be set up for future seasons to come. So it's kind of interesting. But let's get into it. First things first, got to talk about the biggest name that got traded. The biggest, most like iconic, if you will, player that got traded, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant getting traded to the Suns was surprising. I honestly don't. I still don't know how to take it. You think that they're going to have to trade a significant amount of assets to get a player like a Kevin Durant, and really they didn't. No knock to the players that they got in return, right? But I was pretty shocked that it was just a ton of draft picks. Um, it was a mix of like first round and second round draft picks, but the Nets really set themselves up with a lot of draft equity going forward. So that trade was like one that really kind of surprised the heck out of me, especially since eh, although Phoenix had been in the argument of being one of those teams that was kind of on the cusp. When you have a Chris Paul who's still trying to fight for a first championship, you have a player, a stud like Devin Booker, who's just an ace. Man, the man is automatic, right? Not Steph Curry, not Klay Thompson, but again, he's just that type of guy, man. He's one of those guys that gets on the floor. He's gonna ball out, game in and game out. I mean, he's good for at least 2025. I mean, I say at least 2025, but then we see him go off for what 60, 70, um, a couple times before. So I mean, the dude's got the capability. He can do it. He can score on his own. It's just to be able to do what he's already done game in and game out, and then to add a Kevin Durant. The only issue that I have with like the Suns right now, kind of the way they're comprised, and I didn't bring up their full depth chart, but the way that they're comprised right now is who's going to play defense. Kevin Durant's not going to play defense by himself, right? DeAndre Ayton can't play defense only with Kevin Durant, right? Like, they're the only two that are relatively defensive. Chris Paul ain't stopping nobody. I mean, oh man. Maybe a few years ago. Offensively, I still think he's a stud. Is he slower than he used to be? Of course. My man's getting up there in age, right? But he's definitely no defensive threat whatsoever. And there is a lot of talented guards in the league right now that I don't think they have any type of nerve towards being afraid of Chris Paul at all defensively. Devin Booker, oh, I mean, God, dog. I don't want to call him a one-way player because I feel like that one-way player thing is I mean, Chris Paul's more of that now than Devin Booker, but man, he's about as close to a one-way player as it gets, right? I mean, my man can score, but he's not getting blocks, steals. He's definitely not good for more than shoot 3 accidental rebounds, right? He's not even playing in the hole. Like, he don't even want to go bang down low, right? And it's not even to say let a lot of big guys even go down low and play hard in the paint or whatever like they used to, right? Throwing elbows like Ben Wallace style, Rasheed Wallace style. But Devin Booker ain't going to the hole to get boards for anybody, right? Offensively, defensively, that's just not his game, right? Gonna shoot threes, automatic mid range, crazy mid range. So I that's the one thing that I'm I guess concerned, if you want to call it that, with the Suns is that they need a lot of defensive help, and DeAndre Ayton looked really spent last year in the playoffs. So I could only imagine, going up against a team such as the Mavericks again, who really did them dirty in that comeback from Game 7. Luka did it by himself, right? So not adding any defensive equity during the trade deadline to me is like, all right, we want to score more points. We're going to score more points than you, but we also can't stop you. So, anyways, not really concerned with the Suns. It's unfortunate again. They got one of the best players in the world in Kevin Durant. They got a top 20 player, I guess, 25 player in Devin Booker, but zero defense, none. Man, they ain't stopping nothing. Going down the line here, I was going to speak on trades first and then go to free agents, but the Russell Westbrook signing is just too big not to bring up to the top, right? That's one of the other biggest acquisitions that happened during this trade deadline. Russell Westbrook getting traded to the Utah Jazz. Him having such a huge contract and still being able to get a buyout. Now, I didn't look up the details of the buyout, so it'd be kind of interesting to see what it was comprised of. I would imagine they at least met in the middle, right? Russell Westbrook to get some type of money from that buyout, but telling the team straight up like, hey, I have no intentions to long-term stay here is one of those things that I was just talking about with a player just being outspoken, saying what his intentions are, and the franchise pretty much being handcuffed to say, hey, you know what, we're going to honor this because if we don't do it now, we're not going to get anything for him, right? If they just let him go, they're going to pay him, $30 million this year or something, and pay him $30 million to probably not want to be there, not play that hard and this and that, right? And him kind of just to go away with doing nothing for the franchise. So I can understand the buyout and opening up a roster spot to be able to sign, another free agent or anything, somebody that's actually going to help them in the long run. I understand it, but it's just crazy. Like they bought him out. Russ has agreed to go to the Clippers, and the Clippers were players, man. They were players at the trade deadline, and they absolutely improved. Getting rid of Reggie Jackson and the other point guard was surprising. You get rid of the only two actual point guards that you have, and then the first trade was Mason Plumlee, and then Eric Gordon. You got another shooter. You have two guys, one that again prefers to play defense in Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, who is more off the ball guy, but you got nobody to get them the rock. It didn't really make sense to me to add Mason Plumlee and Eric Gordon, but it's like you set up a team that is in discussion with getting another potential point guard and now getting Russell Westbrook. You're giving a pass-first guy, a guy that can score, but a pass-first guy, a bunch of shooters around him, the best defensive team around him, and that's not to say that Adams and Serge Ibaka and Kevin Durant, whenever they were all playing in OKC, weren't, pretty good defenders, which they all were. But they didn't have what this Clippers team has scoring-wise. where any person can take over the game at any moment, right? If they're playing the way that these players are capable of playing, um, if that happens, man, the Clippers might make a splash, right? I say might. Is it more likely than might? Yeah, I think so. But it, stuff has to really go their way, right? They if they're not clicking on all cylinders and essentially creating a scheme that's going to have or to benefit all of them as players, then they might be in trouble, right? Because you also have a bunch of guys that are approximately the same height. You got Zubac, who's their lone big man that was from the beginning of the season, right? You added a Mason Plumlee. Is he still that guy? I mean, not really. I don't think anybody's afraid of Mason Plumlee, but I think he still does bring a defensive presence. I mean, he's still a big frame in the middle. You still got to worry about Nikola Jokic. You still got to worry about Anthony Davis. That stretch five. Um, so adding another big man, but adding somebody like Russell Westbrook, who ho- ho- hopefully realizes, man, you can't really shoot, bro. You could pass like whew, nobody's business. But Russell Westbrook, you can't really shoot, my man. Your jump shots about as efficient as Shaq's free throws. Actually, I think Shaq's free throws are a higher, way higher percentage. I mean, I know it's a free shot, but come on. Yeah, his jump shot percentage is terrible. So he goes to a team that he doesn't even have to shoot that much. You got guys like Eric Gordon, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard that can score. Just hand them the rock, let them do their thing. The Mavs. Man, I'm kind of shocked with this one with adding Kyrie. Really, because the other side of things. Spencer Dinwiddie left the team, the Nets, only to be traded back for Kyrie. Only made me speculate, until the Kevin Durant trade, only made me speculate that his beef was for PT playing time. Uh, Kyrie come in after Spencer Dinwiddie had his uh, season averages go up in the first year. I'm sorry, his starting year without Kyrie, and then even his first year with Kyrie, his scoring was up. Towards the end of the season is when it started to come down. The following season, it went down to just about nothing. And that was a Kyrie Irving effect, right? So Spencer Dinwiddie gets then traded, only to be traded back to the franchise that he had just come from, which still had a Ben Simmons, a Kevin Durant at the time. So I was like, well, it was his beef with Kevin Durant, because that's kind of how it was initially said. There's plenty of stories out there. All you got to do is hit Dr. Google for Spencer Dinwiddie being unhappy with the Brooklyn Nets. It was kind of shocking again to see him go back. A lot of times that doesn't happen, right? But then Kevin Durant got traded, and it was like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe his beef was with KD. Not saying that they cleaned the team out for Spencer Dinwiddie, right? Because he's not that guy. But you have enough unhappy superstars, and you just rather get something back in return for these guys rather than just let them leave in free agency, right? So the Nets, though. Speaking on the Nets, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Thomas coming off the bench and showing exactly who the heck he is. Man, that kid came off for what, 3 straight 40-plus games. Has kind of fell off a little bit since then, but the kid's still scoring. Uh, in the KD trade, they added a ton, I said it earlier, a ton of draft equity. So you have this young, sharp nucleus, right, of young talent that is still going to be competitive in the Eastern Conference because, like Patrick Beverly said, the reason why he went to Chicago, the East is weak. Yeah, they're kind of weak. I mean, you got Boston, Milwaukee. Looking. Miami now. Chicago, maybe. And then Brooklyn, you know? So, to me, it makes sense. I'm not even going to say the Knicks. If anybody disagrees with me, you might be a fan. And I'm sorry for that. Anyway, the Nets are really set up. They're really set up for the next few years. They got, I think, a couple firsts, several seconds back for KD. They got the young core back. And as long as you can build team camaraderie again with guys that don't have that superstar big head, if you will, then you draft around them. You make them better. You get that polarizing person, or you draft you have them show out. You got these draft picks and stuff. You couple them with a player together, and maybe get somebody else. Brooklyn doesn't really look like a good place to be right now, only because all the superstars leaving in James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Yes, they all wanted to play together and stuff. Thought it was a good idea, but you see that there's a little bit of turmoil. Is it Sean Marks? I doubt it. He's a product of the Spurs and the Spurs guys. I'm not going to toot our own horns, but they've been relatively successful in other places, minus Ime. Ime's whole activity with the franchise, but I'm not even going to go there. Ime Udoka, in case anybody actually wants to search, Ime Udoka was the head coach for the Boston Celtics. But Sean Marks is a product of the Spurs. Jacques Vaughn is a product of the Spurs. I'm not saying that everything they do is Spurs oriented, right? But we've seen players come and go from the Spurs organization, and they're just like, it's not for me. They back off of it. They're just like, hey, this isn't for me. It's not a bad formula, but it's not for me. And most of the time, it's the diva superstars that aren't going to do it. I mean, we saw it in Kawhi Leonard, and we also saw it in DeMar DeRozan. LaMarcus was kind of like throwing a fit kind of the whole time. LaMarcus Aldridge throwing a fit, while during his time with the Spurs, because he wanted to be that focal point, and honestly, he just wasn't it. So seeing three guys like that come and go, you can tell that it's not for everyone. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure Greg Popovich sleeps perfectly fine at night knowing that he was able to do what he needed to do with what he had and was able to send these guys on their way, and it is what it is, right? Move on to the next thing. All right, going down the line here. Jay Crowder to the Bucks. A few years ago, before the Suns, I would have said Jay Crowder to the Bucks is phenomenal. Damn. He adds tenacity, adds defense, adds toughness to the team, right? With the Giannis, Jay Crowder. Aha. But my man started flopping like a fish, worse than everybody claims LeBron does, and I just, man, I don't know. I guess call it fell out of love with dude, right? But I don't like him anymore. I mean, yes, he can still every now and again put up some points. He can still play defense, but man, dude, so much is getting farted on, and the dude's like, oh my God. I don't get it. He's one of the worst floppers in the league right now. If people disagree with me, I don't care. I don't. Ask me if I do. I don't. But I think he still adds a little bit, adds a depth to another big man. He's a stretch big man. I feel like he still shoots too many threes. He makes a lot of bad shots. Doesn't really make others better, but makes the team collectively better, if that makes sense. Can't necessarily say he's going to be dropping dimes and people are going to be shooting jump shots, good jump shots, right? But defense leads to offense. So in that sense, I can see collectively him making the team just a little bit better. Not saying Milwaukee, was far off of a championship run anyways, but yeah. Okay. Last but not least, no. Two more. Spurs. Me. Jesus. My Spurs traded for a few cats that I'm not even sure are going to still be here next year. Devontae Graham, Kim Birch, and Dwayne Dedmon's already gone. But holy heck, what I did like was, getting rid of Jakob. Man, I like Jakob, but in a rebuild, you gotta unload even some of your good players, right? Not great. Jakob's not great, but good. You have to unload the good, especially if there's gonna be a team that's gonna buy them high. I feel like he got bought really freaking high. The Spurs got back the 2024 first round draft pick from the Raptors, this year's 2023 second round from the Raptors, and the 2025 second from the Raptors for Jakob Poeltl. Take it. Take it. Especially with everybody so high on the French dude. Not even going to bring his name up. Not even going to get into details with him. Just going to say the French dude. The 7'3" kid that everybody's fancying over. I guess if I could say any team that's going to draft a foreign player, I'd be Spurs, right? They're foreign guys. Not against it, just not really high on a 7'3", dribbler, Kevin Durant style, but not as good of a shooter in my opinion. Whatever. That was the trade for Jakob to go back to the Raptors. Devontae Graham, I think, came over from the Pelicans. 4 second-round draft picks. 4! 2024, 2026, 2028, 2029. That's a lot of picks. I love it. And then the last one was with Dwayne Dedmon. The Spurs sent over, I guess it said cash considerations, right? But they got Dwayne Dedmon, who they bought out, and the Heat's 2028 second-round draft pick. Listen, for a team that's in rebuild mode, you have to have draft picks. If you're in a situation where you're in a rebuild and have none, man, that's a bad freaking place to be. So I love it. I really do. I really do. I hope the Spurs are able to do what they need to do, trade some good stuff. The Raptors pick isn't going to be a very high one, right? They're still have a pretty decent team. Pascal Siakam is I don't know, dude's badass to me, but they still have a good group of guys that can make a decent playoff run, but still, man, just loading up on picks, I love it. This is in addition to the Spurs, already having their picks. Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited. The last one I was gonna mention was the Lakers. I didn't do that on purpose. I meant to do my Spurs last, but the Lakers are adding D'Angelo Russell, Mo Bamba, and Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt at the draft deadline. The only thing I didn't like about the Lakers trades and rebuild of their team, if you will, was one, they're already given a hard time about LeBron needs this, LeBron needs that, blah 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 blah. LeBron's 38 years old. Everybody's gonna talk whatever noise they're gonna talk, and that's fine by me. I'm a huge LeBron fan. Anybody and everybody that knows me knows I'm a LeBron fan. Get over it. Y'all number 2 fans, you know who I'm talking about, the 23 guy y'all like to talk about a lot. He besides his 6-0, his 2 3-peats, oh my God. I'm not even going to get into that. The discussion is a heavy one, and I want to invite anybody, and I mean any freaking body, to come on my podcast and talk about this. A good discussion, not an argument. A good discussion. Bring facts, bring details. Let's go back and forth. Let's make it, a 30-minute chop up of Jordan, LeBron. Anybody else wants to bring somebody else on the table. Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Magic, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whoever your favorite player is. Bring it on. Let's talk about it. But the Lakers, the only thing I didn't like was I thought Thomas Bryant was good. I thought he was good. In my opinion, he was one of those pieces where I was like thinking, if you're a Lakers fan, he's the one that you guys would have wanted to keep. I'm not saying that you would have been so willing to give up Anthony Davis or Russell Westbrook, which it seemed like a lot of the fans were content with turning the page on Russell Westbrook. But Thomas Bryant, he was one of those role guys, and he fit the role well. So I was kind of shocked about them giving him up, but getting back Mo Bamba to essentially replace that role, I like that one. I really do. Um, and then D'Angelo Russell, adding a guard that can shoot. LeBron hasn't had a ton of shooters, right? We're gonna say Mo Williams from way back when. He did his best when he had his other couple of guys, right? Him and an aging D Wade, but still having a D Wade, having a corner shooter like Ray Allen in Miami. Going back to Cleveland, having K Love and Kyrie. Getting over to LA, having a fluky Danny Green, but still having a corner shooter kind of guy. But then you get D'Angelo Russell as a guy that can actually hold the rock, go ISO, isolation, one-on-one, for those that don't really understand the term. That can spread the floor, right? Get all the guys out of the way, go one-on-one against him and his defender, collapse a defense, kick it out to somebody, or set up, for an alley-oop for one of the big men. He can do that stuff. He can drive and pass. He can drive and shoot. I like D'Angelo Russell, especially with the combination of him and Anthony Davis, a big and a small, pick and pop, pick and roll. I like it. All right, so what else? What do we got? The two free agent signings. Now, I mentioned them. I mentioned Patrick Beverley to the Bulls. That one was kind of like good for him. I mean, I'm not a huge Patrick Beverley fan. I wasn't when he went to the Lakers. I wasn't when he's been on the Clippers. Didn't care for him really any of his stops. Does he bring tenacity, toughness? Sure. Minnesota kind of needed it when he was there, but didn't stay there long. I think he was long enough to have like a snack and a juice pack. Okay. Do the Bulls need it? Yeah. They got a super young team. Nobody on their floor to really push them or drive them in a way that they haven't been driven by like a player, right? DeMar DeRozan really isn't that guy. So to have somebody that's a little more vocal, like a Patrick Beverley, to me it goes one way or another. It either goes really freaking sour because you got the guy that you're like, dude, shut the flip up, right? We've been doing just fine until you got here. Or it goes really well and he's the voice of the locker room or that spokesperson for the team, that player mascot, if you will, and puts the confidence out for everybody else who's unable to put confidence forward for themselves. So, do I like him being added to the locker room again? Only time will tell. If they accept him in the locker room, he doesn't become a nuisance or doesn't annoy the wrong players, then yeah, I think he can do some positive there. And then K-Love to the Heat. Man, um, K-Love to the Heat with Jimmy Buckets. I said Jimmy Buckets, my bad. Jimmy Butler. Um, if K-Love can play similarly to how he played more so in Minnesota than um, how he played in Cleveland, the league would be in trouble. But that's asking him to play like he played 12 years ago or something like that. Man, only undefeated person thing in sports, all sports, unanimously is time. Father Time is undefeated. Can K Love do 2020s? I don't think so. If he could, whew, shit. The league would be in trouble. Um, Miami would have to be playing from down. They're more defensive. They'd be more. I mean, they're to me more comparable to the Clippers. That's why adding somebody offensively like Russell Westbrook to the Clippers is good in a way because they have so much defense there already. Guys that can score but play defense. That's what I would think, and I just think Jimmy Butler has that it factor, man. He's a savage, fucking savage. He's I'm a fan. He's nasty, man. So Caleb to the Heat is a good one, and that's one that I'm absolutely gonna have my eyes out for. Um, I can't wait to see these players in their new outlooks and stuff, especially after the All Star break. You know, when the league is coming down to the wire, it's like 20 something games left until the postseason, and the Eastern and Western Conference are so tight, more so in the middle and the bottom than the top, right? The two like top two or three teams, I think in both respective leagues have sort of put a gap between the middle, like the 4, 5s, and 6s, or the 5, 6s, and 7s. But I know in the West it's really tight, so it's going to be interesting down the stretch to see some of these teams that are on the outside looking in. Um, if the moves they made were enough. I mean, the Lakers is on everybody's radar, right? So yeah, we'll get to that. All right, as promised, the All-Star game. I'm not even going to talk about it too much. The final score of the All-Star game: Team Giannis 184 to 175 for Team LeBron. The second I saw that score, I was like, "This is stupid. I can't watch it." I'm such a freaking fan of the game, the actual game of how it's supposed to be played, that I cannot watch it. I can't see one-on-ones or fake one-on-ones, right? Jason Tatum, freaking Jaylen Brown. Ooh, who's better? That no, I can't, because the image of them two going one-on-one way off to the side and then seeing all other 8 guys on the opposite end of the floor just freaking standing there, annoying. Uh, I don't even care. It was funny afterwards because they named their trophies, right. They gave Giannis his trophy. Um, Tatum got his MVP for scoring 55s. They bragged about the most points scored in an All Star game ever. Well, you know what? The other All Star games had a little bit of defense. Even in the early 2000s, the scores were 120s and 130s. But come on, there was a little bit of defense. Guys that were still stopping each other from just dunking it. Like, that's stupid. The stats are super fluffed, so don't care. I mean, you saw multiple people on Team LeBron with 30 plus. Team Giannis, I think 2 were 40 plus. And Donovan Mitchell had 40, and Tatum had 55. The no defense thing, just it's annoying. Mike Malone, the head coach, I believe, of the Denver Nuggets, was the head coach of Team Giannis, the winning coach, right? He said it was the worst basketball game ever played. You got a guy who gets paid to coach, get elected to coach an all-star game, and immediately regret it. Yeah, worst basketball game ever played. I agree. Mike Malone, I agree. The players don't even want to play. You got guys dropping out of stuff, the skills challenges and the game, guys that are a little banged up. Then you got guys that probably should have stayed out of it because of other injuries. So then you end up getting like next guy, next guy, next guy. You got players that you're not so everyday fan. It doesn't even know who's playing, right? So you got that not working for you. They don't give a crap about this. They look at it, they see a bunch of players they don't even freaking know, and they're just like, dude, I ain't watching this shit. I don't get it. I don't like it. I really don't. But the one thing that I will say about the All-Star weekend that was like, woo! Yeah! Mac McClung, baby! That kid went nuts. I plan to put the link down in my description for this video. It's a link with all of his dunks for the dunk contest. Holy shit. Every one of his dunks was like impressive. If you don't really watch the detail of even the first one in the video, I believe the first one in the video is him jumping over the two stacked guys and he grabs the ball out of his hand. Look at it real closely. He grabs the ball, touches the backboard, reverse dunk. If you're not looking super detailed at his dunks, you miss something and you're like, oh, it's just a reverse dunk over, a person that's squatting down, another person slouching up. No, it was impressive. Watch the video in detail. If you need a little bit more detail or you miss something, you're just like, Ryan, I'm not seeing, how you're so impressed with these dunks. Dude, hit me up, message me on the description, comments, whatever. I'm going to go over it, and I'll look at it again, and we'll go over it, and I'll talk to you about it, because I'm just saying, Mac McClung, crazy. People that don't know who he is, also crazy in my opinion, because this kid was like top, I think, 3 or 4 high school player about 4 or 5 years ago. One of the nearly 5-star, if not 5-star recruited kids out of high school. Played 2 seasons with Georgetown, was getting coached by Patrick Ewing. Averaged like 13 points or something like that his freshman year. 13, 14 points his freshman year. I think it was like freshman of the year in his conference. Injury plagued sophomore year, but still averaged like 20 points a game for Georgetown. Initially opted to go to the NBA draft, but ended up going back to school or opting to stay in college, hit the transfer portal, transferred to Texas Tech University, was on a really good Texas Tech team. It was 2020-2021 season. I think Texas Tech was, I don't think that was their championship run. It might have been. I'm sorry for not knowing that. That was one detail that it just slipped my mind until now to remember that not last year, but the year before, Texas Tech was like in the championship game. It might have been. But man, I like him. I've liked him for years. I've seen highlights and stuff of his since high school. This kid can jump out of the freaking gym. And now everybody knows he signed a 10-day contract, 2-way contract with the Philadelphia 76ers as of Valentine's Day. 4 days later is in the dunk contest and freaking wins it, man. Freaking wins it. I don't know. I was excited about it. Watching his video was nuts. But anyways, I've gone on long enough, man. I'm going to post this thing. Y'all check it out. Please like, please subscribe, please share. Trying to get my subscription up as much as I possibly can. Got to get these things up. I'd really, really like to go live. Got to get to 1,000 followers or subscribers first. But like, share, and if you have any recommendations, any comments, concerns, or suggestions, please hit me up. Leave them in the comments. But to now, everybody, thank you for the support. Thank you for listening, and I'll be seeing y'all soon. Take care, y'all.